Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome to Converge Podcast Season 7.
Saison 7, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci
Thank you
d'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Welcome to this brand new spotlight episode of Comme d'Archi, which I am wholeheartedly dedicating to Gabi. Building on the unstable Dune, Hill, Tower, 3 ways to inhabit San Francisco. An episode live from San Francisco. As it's being broadcast, I'm about to return to Paris. During this new San Franciscan trip, I wanted to do some introspection, to get more to the heart of the making of this city, built on the unstable. So, I am not offering you an interview, but a walk through the mythical city so beautifully sung about in France by Maxime Le Forestier with his blue house that really exists at 3841 18th Street in the Castro district, very close to Dolores Park. But more than getting attached to the myth of this ultimately ordinary house in its context or the famous painted ladies, we may come back to that one day. During our walk around San Francisco today, first, there's a sensation the wind, the cold, sometimes unexpected. And then this ground that is never completely stable. I walk and already the city is slipping away a bit. I go up, I go down. There's resistance to it. Nothing here is ever fully horizontal. Very quickly, a question arises, almost physically. What am I walking on? These last few days, I've crossed San Francisco from one side to the other. From the vanished dunes of the Sunset to the slopes of Glen Park, to the center around Montgomery. 3 landscapes, 3 ways of building. But above all, 3 ways of inhabiting the land, because here, the ground is not a simple support. It is a constraint, a material, sometimes even a problem. So, you erase it, you adapt to it, or you try to forget it. And perhaps that's where the city story is told, in this permanent tension between what holds and what could give way. Today, I'm taking you on a journey through sand, slope, and concrete, a journey to understand deep down how a city stands, but also to note as a preamble sociologist Sonia Lehmann-Frisch, in her work Sociology of San Francisco, divide her research into chapters that question the common representations of the city, such as, for example, city of neighborhoods, city on the bay, city of innovations, a growing city, etc. Obviously, among the most striking of these contrasts we encounter, the poor, a priori less poor indeed than in other large American cities, but the rich are considerably richer. This city being among the most expensive in the United States, and a growing difficulty for low-income local residents to find a place to live anymore. Indeed, and here I'm quoting, since the office boom of the 1980s, attracting yuppies, young executives, and high-level entrepreneurs, and the dot-com boom of the late 1990s, all the way through to the intense super gentrification of the 2000s, San Francisco is now the most expensive metropolis in the United States, which pose major problems for access to housing and property. End quote, points out Flaminia Padeux in her article The San Francisco Paradox, in La Vie des Idées in November 2018. Furthermore, it's worth noting, San Francisco pioneers urban, environmental, and innovative policy with the involvement of upper classes in gentrified neighborhoods. So, exit the clichés. Not everything is black or white. Wells can give hope, even if when it comes to sharing, there's still a long way to go. On housing access for everyone in San Francisco, I invite you to re-listen to my interview with the firm Lady Maytum Stacy Architects, numbers 78 and 79 of season 5. Come on, now that the context is set, let's go for a walk. Starting in the Sunset District. Here, the original landscape of dunes has disappeared. The city is built radically against nature. Grid, répétition, standardisation. The Greek Hippodamos de Milet seems to have had followers greatly aided by the industrialization of the last centuries of our era. Because yes, the Sunset District saw a dramatic change in a very short time. Originally, it didn't resemble anything close to an urban neighborhood. A vast expanse of sand dunes swept by the Pacific winds. Very few dwellings, and at the end of the 19th century only, a few hundred people lived there. Almost no infrastructure, described as a cold sand desert, long left out of San Francisco's development. But in about 50 years, the area went from a dune landscape deemed uninhabitable to a set of fully developed residential neighborhoods. In 1930, the population was around 35,000, then 48,000 in 1940. Today, the district has about 100,000 residents. Development began slowly at the end of the 19th century then, thanks in particular to the creation of Glen Park. Then, the arrival of transportation lines to Ocean Beach sparked speculative interest from real estate developers. It was especially after the 1906 earthquake that the process accelerated, with the construction of small houses on the dunes. During the 1920s and 30s, the Sunset gradually became a true suburb of San Francisco. A few developers like Henry Dogger transformed the landscape by building rows of single-family homes, often very similar with stucco facades, standardized plan on narrow lots. These constructions give the neighborhood its characteristic visual identity. After World War II, urbanization continued to take shape with the disappearance of the last remaining dunes and the building of new homes, all intended to accommodate the growing demands of the baby boom. These days, the Sunset District stands as one of the most densely populated neighborhoods in all of San Francisco, a vast residential area. a territory facing the ocean, between fog and the light of the Pacific.
My bonnie lies over the ocean. My bonnie lies over the sea.
What was once a marginal territory has become a central part of the city. When I headed out to Ocean Beach early in my stay here, it was unusually, almost unbearably hot, and I really felt it. A seaside atmosphere, almost a little old-fashioned. Unlikely stylistic sequences for a historian of French architecture. A 2013 study titled Residential Builder of the Sunset District, written by Mary Brown, Préservation officielle for the city of SF, tells us, indicating that there are 9 typologies of buildings in the Sunset District. These typologies stand out because of their clearly distinct entry configurations, which are often closely linked to specific periods of construction. Beyond these differences, almost all single-family homes share a modest-sized layout, rising a full story above an integrated garage, a prominent garage opening, often deeply recessed, a flat roof en ornate parapet, and a front yard setback, a secondary service door, often located in the recessed garage opening. Each typology can feature a variety of architectural style, although some are closely associated with particular style. Similarly, most of them are quite clearly connected to a specific period in time, even though overlaps between them are fairly common. The exterior facades of the neighborhood's houses therefore showcase a wide array of architectural designs and style. To avoid monotonous blocks of identical buildings, builders offered a range of facade styles, among which the most prominent were French Provincial, the Spanish colonial regime Mediterranean, and Tudor Revival. This wide range of facade styles provided variety and resulted in block facades featuring parapets, entrances, stairways, and remarkably differentiated window patterns. Despite the uniformity of the volume, setbacks, and roof shape, this diversity of style and architectural features has giving rise to an urban landscape that provides a sense of depth, enhanced visual interest, and a notable degree of heterogeneity within an environment that is otherwise quite uniform. The diversity of facade styles also offered more choices to consumers, allowing everyone to assert their individuality. Buyers had the option of choosing a traditional neo-historical or, in the late 30s, modernist-style house. The fact remains that Sunset represents a true urban conquest over an unstable natural landscape, marked by a rapid and almost brutal transformation, a city quite literally built on sand. Now, let's make our way a bit farther south and deeper into the heart of the city, moving past the well-known Twin Peaks overlook as we continue on toward Glen Park. In San Francisco, Glen Park is a neighborhood that you don't understand right away. You get there and something resists. The city is no longer flat. It no longer reveals itself at a single glance. Here, you have to walk, go up, go down, turn. And very quickly, the body understands before the eye. We're no longer in a city that imposes itself on the ground, but in a city that clings to it. Glen Park was built around a canyon, a hollow, a fault, almost a breath in the city, and all around the houses. They don't line up exactly. They don't repeat a single model, they adapt. Some are perched in balance, others are tiered. Still others seem to have slid gently down the slope before stopping there, right there. You rarely enter on level ground. You have to go up a few steps, go down a staircase, go around a low wall. The access itself becomes an experience. I can assure you, here, in this month of March 2026, almost every morning, I go down the hill from the house where I'm staying to get to the other side and go up even higher. Then, in the evening, repeat the ritual, and on the weekends, taking the time to stroll right through Glen Park itself, a park that managed to escape the wave of real estate speculation, a wild park full of immense eucalyptus trees. The scents, and then come back to the facades, often quite modest wood, stucco, layers of successive alteration forming, at times, a quirky little bit of scenery, mixing Hispanic, South American, Anglo-Saxon, and even French cultures. Being said, nothing spectacular, but an accumulation of gestures, decisions, and adjustments, as if each house had negotiated its place on the hill one by one. Glen Park wasn't built all at once. It was deposited layer by layer, fragment by fragment. One house, then another, a street that invents itself, then a dead end, then a staircase. Here, urban planning is not an abstract drawing. It's a continuous adaptation. Glen Park has sometimes been described as a village, and it's true, not just for its scale, but for this way of inhabiting the land, of working with it, rather than making it disappear. In San Francisco, some neighborhoods have erased the ground to build, others ignored it. Glen Park, on the other hand, accepted. And perhaps that's what, deep down, makes it so unique and what I like so much. An architecture that doesn't seek to dominate, but to hold on to the slope, to hold in the landscape, to hold through time. Ever since the late 19th century, the site has been widely regarded as a relaxing vacation retreat. It was even nicknamed the Switzerland of San Francisco, attracting city dwellers in search of nature and fresh air. Before being a residential neighborhood, Glen Park was a rural area, a dairy farm, large plots, with little urbanization. The first land subdivisions appeared in the 1870s and 1890s. Then, it accelerated after 1906, with the arrival of new residents, displaced by the earthquake. Unlike other very homogeneous neighborhoods in San Francisco, Glen Park has a great diversity of style. Early houses from the late 19th and early 20th centuries were often simple, modest folk Victorian. Thickest, exposed wood structure, ornament. Some of them are still standing today, including the very oldest houses along Chenery Street. They still bear witness to a semi-rural, almost artisanal neighborhood. With the arrival of infrastructure, water, gas, roads, the neighborhood became denser. Small California bungalow, modest house for the middle class, progressively established along the sloping streets. In the 30s, Glen Park was still semi-bucolic, with houses scattered at the foot of the hills. The houses adapt to the terrain rather than the other way around. This adaptation gives an almost alpine impression, hence the village image that is still very present today. But to really understand Glen Park, you also have to recognize the jarring impact brought on by modern infrastructure. The Glen Park BART station, designed by Ernest Bourne, with Corlett and Spackman, and inaugurated in the 1970s. The station is a major architectural link, often described as an important example of regionalized brutalism. Its presence contrasts with the more intimate residential fabric of the neighborhood. The Glen Park Community Plan also recalls that the construction of the station and its facilities led to the disappearance of some of the houses and the existing commercial fabric. Glen Park shows another idea of the house in San Francisco. Neither the repetitive row of the flat suburbs nor the ostentatious villa, but a house negotiated with the site, a house that accepts the slope, complicated thresholds, oblique views, and proximity to the landscape, a house whose form still says something about the ground on which it is placed. In Glen Park, the house doesn't erase the relief, it inhabits it. Perhaps that's what gives the neighborhood its special tone. It's less an urban backdrop than a whole way of life shaped by living alongside the hill. And now, let's take the BART. Let's head toward downtown now. We get off the BART and everything changes. The mineral space opens up suddenly, but it also closes in. The facades rise, the lines tighten, the perspective lengthen. Here, the city no longer follows the ground. It begins to pull away from it, almost lifting free. The Salesforce Tower comes into view almost right away, appearing smooth and continuous, with no edges or irregularities. It doesn't tell the story of the terrain. It erases it. The gaze drifts gently upward. The body stays below, and between the two, a distance is established. It's an architecture of power, an architecture that abstracts itself. The ground is no longer a problem. It has become a starting point, almost a detail. But as you walk, something cracks. Sometimes empty storefronts, floors that seem silent, entire buildings waiting. And then there's this halted construction site, an unfinished structure that seems almost frozen, suspended in time itself. This is where the model suddenly stopped itself. Verticality, for a moment, lost its certainty. It's not an ancient ruin, it's a contemporary layer that is freezing. An architecture of doubt. The sinking Millennium Tower drives the point home, so to speak. Well, repaired, but... And then, almost discreetly, something else appears. Doors that open, reactivated lobbies, new uses in old building shells. At 1 Montgomery, the old bank is being transformed. They no longer lock up money there. They welcome the public, music, life. The ground floors are once again thresholds, places of passage, of meeting. The city is coming down again. It returns to ground level, less spectacular perhaps, but closer, more lived in. Downtown is changing. We no longer build only upwards, we focus on transforming, opening up, and reinvesting. As if the city, having lifted itself away from the ground, were now trying to return to it, to reconnect with it once more? Finally, our three landscapes are superimposed. The sunset, a place where people sought to take control of the ground, to steady it, to make it all but disappear beneath constant repetition. Glen Park, where they work with it, where each house negotiates its place on the slope. And downtown, where they detached from it before having to reconsider it. Three different ways of living within the same underlying instability. Because in San Francisco, the ground is never a given, we know that well. It is fluid and unpredictable, at times even invisible, and capable of erupting into sudden bursts of violence. And maybe that's what ultimately unites these neighborhoods. Not a common form, but a common question. How to hold on. San Francisco is not a city set on the ground. It's a city that constantly invents a way to hold on to it. Dear listeners, thank you for listening. See you next week for more adventures. Until then, take care. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to tune in to our previous content on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you like it, make sure to promote the podcast by giving it 5 stars on Apple Podcast and adding a comment, or on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe and listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.